What's going on, guys? It's QuazyDog here, and in today's video, we're going to do a little bit of a setup tutorial and gameplay featurette on the new Hisense 65-inch U88G, also known as the U8G in the US market. Now, this is gameplay footage and how to set up the PlayStation 5 using the HDMI 2.1 port to fully optimize everything you need to be the highest level of success when it comes to this TV. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to utilize the TV's remote control. We're going to go into the menu system, and you're going to want to make sure that your HDMI format is set to enhanced. If by chance it's set to standard out of the box, make sure you change that first and foremost, because this is actually how we're going to unlock a lot of the full capabilities when it comes to this TV. Now from there, let's go ahead and let's jump into the settings, because right away you can see there that we're only running this at 60 Hertz. So let's come down to screen and video. We're gonna take a look at a couple of the settings here. Now again, our output information right now is just the 60 Hertz. So we're gonna come down, resolution, I usually leave that automatic. We have your transfer rate, automatic is really good as well. Essentially what this does is if by chance you did happen to have maybe a lower quality HDMI cable or a lower quality TV, excluding of course the U88G or U8G in this comparison, this is going to change your chroma subsampling to reduce the bitrate quality that it takes to send from your console to your TV to ensure that there's no delays in the frames or any sort of black frames that may pop up. Now, everything else looks fantastic here. The enable 120 Hertz output, we're gonna leave that on automatic as well, and that will allow us to utilize that when and if it becomes available. Now, aside from that, I believe, is it in system? We're gonna go through, because honestly, this is also for myself, one of the very first times that we're going in and we're actually enabling the HDMI 2.1. I've been fairly lazy, I'm not gonna lie, and I've actually had this plugged into my AVR pretty much this entire time. So all of that looks very, very good. I believe, again, there is one last setting that I can't quite remember where it was. Screen, sound, storage, system, save data, and game app settings, I do believe. And in here, we're gonna make sure that our performance or resolution mode, we want that to always favor performance, because that is what's going to kick in that 120 FPS every time it's applicable within the game that you're choosing to play. Now that everything is optimized and set up, we have a couple of games that we're going to demonstrate. And I think one of the first ones that we're going to take a look at today would be Call of Duty. So this is Cold War. I'm going to go through the actual Cold War game and not through Warzone. It will be essentially the same. Truthfully, the Cold War the Warzone, sorry, just takes too long to load into a game. And I want to try to condense and compress as many little features as possible when it comes to this footage to make sure that we're not stretching things out unnecessarily. So connect to the online service. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of time to look at the picture. So of course, with the auto low latency and the auto game mode here, we're going to see that it automatically put this into HDR game. One other thing to mention as well that I happened to actually forget earlier when it comes to optimizing this TV for gameplay specifically is you do need to go into the advanced settings and just make sure, of course, that your instant game response is turned on as well as your FreeSync. Now, the slight downfall as of right now, depending on when you're choosing to watch this video, and you'll notice in the top left-hand corner, we have no variable refresh rate when it comes to PS5. It is going to be there presumably around, I don't know, sometime in December, but right now it is locked behind an unnecessary firmware update that truthfully, I think we should have had it the whole entire time. So all of that is good. Let's go in and let's take a look at Cold War. We're gonna go into the campaign and let's just resume. I did play a little bit of this game, and then truthfully, a lot of stuff all came out at once. and I kind of happened to forget about it. Let's skip this cutscene because we really don't care about that. We want to see how fluid the gameplay is and exactly how everything looks. Now, this right now you can see, or I guess you could see, exactly how well the backlighting system works on this TV as far as blooming control. We have 360 zones, if I'm not mistaken, of full array local dimming, and even though in your game mode, if we come into picture and we come into backlight, we can see that because there's no variable refresh rate on the PS5, at least yet, we do have full access to that full array local dimming, and that is set on high right now. Once we put on variable refresh rate, when and if it becomes available, you will notice that full array local dimming will kind of be suppressed and will be grayed out and be turned off. Now, if we come into settings and come into graphics, we're gonna make sure that we turn off the motion blur, ADS effects and everything are fine, field of view is fine for this content comparison. And then we see here as well that we do have the 120 Hertz enabled. When it comes to the ray tracing is locked behind the 60 Hertz. So if you favor quality over performance, I would play in 60, but most of the time for FPS, and I mean, if you're looking at this TV in general, you're probably going to want the 120 Hertz, and that's exactly what we have enabled here. Now, sorry, I want to jump back into here, and yes, we do have that disabled. We didn't need to do anything else. And we're just going to take a look here, kind of go through some dark spots, some light spots, and we can see that everything's looking fantastic. Everything's looking smooth. And if we jump into the menu system and then we come back, we're going to see, of course, we do have that locked 120 FPS as well with the 120 Hertz, which is fantastic. So everything's looking very, very good. This is the first time that I'm seeing this game specifically in the 120 Hertz myself. And I can tell you guys, it is a noticeable difference between the 60. Now, I more so play story-driven or narrative experiences, so for that, I favor the quality, so I'll probably play in 60 a lot of the times for that stuff. But this is how we're looking right now as far as the smoothness in the 120 FPS for Call of Duty Warzone. So let's go ahead and, sorry, Cold War in this case. Let's minimize that and let's take a look at another title here. Now, let's take a look at Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, of course, not every game supports the 120 FPS. So in this case, when this game loads up, we're going to take a look and see exactly what it's able to output. And you're going to see that we're just locked right now at the 60 Hertz because the performance mode on this guy does only take us to 60. But that's quite okay in its own regards as well, because maybe in the future we'll see 120, but this was a launch title. So let's go ahead, let's just rip around and let's see if we can get some different contrasts in the environment. Now, one thing I noticed when I first sampled this game, when I first got this TV a couple of weeks ago, let's see if we can park right here. So those birds up in the sky, they were actually ghosting. Not bad, but super noticeable at the same time. And I was kind of wondering what was happening. So I took a look online, and all you have to do, guys, if you do have any ghosting or motion-related concerns, is you can update your T-Con. So this is a feature and an update exclusive right now to the 65-inch TV. What you do is just go into your settings of the TV where you would normally take a look for software updates. Without actually selecting the option to check for an update, you just hit up on the D-pad 4 times. You're going to get a notice about updating your T-Con, and once that's done, you can go ahead, reboot the TV, or it should do so automatically, and the update should be applied. And what that is doing is updating the actual motion or the timing controller, hence T-Con, within the TV, and man, did it make a world of difference before and after. And I wish I had have captured some before footage, but I didn't. I ended up updating the T-Con right away when I found that there was a little bit of a concern. But if we look at these birds right now, we can see that there's really no issues at all. Everything's super clean, super crisp. And I mean, look at those colors. And again, we're gonna come in, we're gonna see that our picture mode, we do have this in HDR game, and because there is no variable refresh rate, you will actually have full utilization of that backlight. Once variable refresh rate comes out, you will more than likely see that drop unless Hisense updates the TV to somehow allow the variable refresh rate to work with the timing on the backlight for the full array local dimming. So I think we've zipped around in Spider-Man enough. Let's come in and let's take a look at another game. Let's do Ratchet and Clank. I don't think we'll have any cutscenes. I did platinum this game, so we should be able to just kind of jump in and maybe get some quick footage. And again, this Sony Interactive logo, look at how crisp that font is. The control around the blooming and all the suppression, like you would think this was an OLED if you did not know any better. And guys, this is just a VA panel. So the other big benefit with this TV over maybe something like the OLED system would be the fact that there is no potential at all for any burn-in. So no screen retention. You could leave this paused forever and not have a concern. Now in this game as well, because we went into the settings before and favored the performance mode, you're going to see that this should be showing that 60 Hertz as well. And let's get out of this area and let's see. I should be able to go into the arena. I think this is my second playthrough that I did just specifically to unlock the platinum. So let's quickly defeat Pierre's crew. I think this is going to give us a good showcase of the motion and everything that's happening, because this game is nice and fast paced, which is fantastic. So we've got some of the moves here. Very, very beautiful game. And this is going to be fairly easy to go through. We have all these guns pretty well maxed. Let's do... I don't like that one. I like these guys. So these guys are just going to fight for us. And again, we'll get this done sooner rather than later for you guys. Where is my... Is it the black hole vortex? Or is it the rhino? I think it's the rhino. Yeah. So this is actually going to open up a rift and just drop stuff on people to let us do these waves super quick. And again, if we look at the light spots, we look at the dark spots, we look all around, the motion is fantastic. No blooming, no kind of tearing. This game specifically locks very well to 60. I find that Sony really does a good job at their first parties in optimizing every aspect of the game to be as successful as it can be on their home console. And I think that's enough of this game. Truthfully, I don't think we even really need to finish these rifts. Let's go ahead, let's quit this. We're gonna go back home and let's take a look at Returnal. Returnal is another one of those games. This is very, very dark, but this is actually going to show us, again, great replication of motion. Very dark and moody title. And again, we have that Sony Interactive logo there. We can see all these pop-ins and everything is looking absolutely fantastic on this crisp black background. And again, near OLED blacks when it comes to what this U88G, U8G in the US market can do. It's just absolutely spectacular. So we're going to be coming in, we're back on our ship. This game is pretty unique. I actually haven't played this since probably the month after it came out, so I forget probably 90% of what's going on. But again, we're not doing this for the sole gameplay. We're doing this just to take a look at how everything looks. So if we go into some of the settings, again, HDR game is on there. We see that it's at the 60 Hertz because this game is another one of those ones that doesn't have 120. There's not a lot on the PlayStation, to be honest with you. I think you can count them on both hands. But again, this is more of a gaming-oriented video, looking at the overall quality, the responsiveness, more so than it is specifically looking at 120 Hertz titles. And going through here, like very fluid, well, this is hard to play looking through the actual viewfinder of my camera. So we probably won't play very much more of this game, but we're going to activate some of this stuff. We're going to see all the different colors and again how well this TV really performs in this game, because there's a lot of stuff going on in this title. Get this guy here. Let's see if we can get the sword action. Yep. There we go. I think that's probably all we need to play for this title. And let's end this with, can we find one more that has 120? Now, let's do Borderlands 3, because Borderlands 3 is cel shaded. It's very bright. It's very punchy. And this should, if I'm not mistaken, have the 120 hertz. I find, as of right now anyway, a lot of the titles that actually have the 120 enabled would be titles that already have it for PC or for another counterpart. Hopefully we do see more first-party titles coming out utilizing the 120 FPS in the future. For me, I'm primarily, like I said, still using this console on my HDMI 2.0 port. I did switch it to the 2.1 for the purpose of this video, but until the variable refresh rate really comes out in all of its glory, I don't really see much of a point in putting it in the HDMI 2.1 and kind of wasting one of those two available ports. So now we're jumping into Borderlands 3, and I have played countless hours of this game. So let's take a peek. Let's go into the gameplay. We do not want to pre-order that game just yet. And let's see what we have for visuals. So in here, we're going to switch this away from doing the, there we go. So now we have it in performance mode. We don't need to calibrate the display or anything. Previously, it was in the quality setting, because again, I personally favor quality more often than not. Now the TV did flicker in this case, so I believe now we should have, there we go, 120 hertz. So let's go in, let's take a look at just a little bit of gameplay. This is gonna have, again, the opportunity for us to test that 120 frames. The thing that I think is going to happen on this, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on screen when it comes to Borderlands, especially in kind of the later levels. We're on, I think, Ultimate Vault Hunter mode or relatively close to that. So I think performance is going to take a slight hit. And I mean, from what I can see, even the motion on the gun here doesn't look the greatest. And the reason why is, again, going back into the picture, it's nothing to do with the TV. It's just the fact that this is trying to lock itself at 120 frames, and it really just doesn't quite have the power within the console, given this title, to do that appropriately. So we're going to take a look at this scrap trap nest. Now, truthfully, it is performing very well. I don't see any big dips or anything. Oh boy. I normally play this on 2 players with my daughter, and I think in this case it might be a little bit more difficult with this pistol. But we're not playing this to see my gameplay. We're doing this to test out the performance of this panel. Now, one thing that I want to do, again, we can see, again, if we run and you look at the muzzle of that gun, you can see like maybe a little bit of a haze, maybe like a little bit of it kind of struggling on those frames. So let's go ahead, let's pause this game, let's go into the visuals, let's go back into kind of locking in the visual aspects, and we're going to see that now we had that little screen flicker because this is going back into 60 hertz, and you can see that the gun is looking a little bit better. It's downscaled that, and I think it just has a little bit of an easier time on the console side, showing us 60 FPS than 120, and then this is giving us a better quality 4K image as well. It really downscales the fidelity when it comes to the 120 hertz experience. Now, I can, in the future, if you guys are interested, do a content comparison between playing in 1080p at 120 FPS and having the TV upscale that versus playing in 4K 120. We may see a difference, we may not, but at the end of the day, as much as I am a quality snob, if a game does a good enough job really locking you into that overall experience, then you shouldn't notice the difference in the actual quality of the gameplay or the quality of the graphics once you're sunk into kind of a story or anything like that. So we're gonna exit this because we are just getting absolutely nuked in that game. Again, this was not for the gameplay, this was for taking a look at what this all looks like in 120 or in 60 or just in general on this panel. So if by chance you found this video at all helpful, if you have any questions at all, please leave all of that information within the video comments section. I'll be sure to answer any and all comments that come up if I can, and if not, maybe I'll do a little bit of research. We do have Hisense as a vendor partner as well, so they at times, I do notice, are in the comments answering questions and things like that as well. For me, before I sign off, again guys, I favor that quality experience over that 120 FPS specifically on my PS5, whereas I play more 120 FPS games on my Xbox. So before we sign off, we're gonna go into that game data, we're gonna go into the game presets, and again, in this case, I'm gonna leave this back in a game default. Normally, I would change it to resolution mode, but at the end of the day, this is going back into HDMI 2.0 until the VRR update or until a decent HDMI 2.1 AVR becomes available. So I'm really not worried about that experience for myself, but I want to do this content for you guys because I knew that you were looking forward to it. So until my next video, you guys have been awesome. My name is Crazy Dog, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care.